This is the New York Sports Machine on WICR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Vault. Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob back in action. Very exciting time to be a New York Jets fan. Big Shot Rob just stopped me in the hallway, told me about the Brandon Marshall trade. So obviously, Rob, Mike McCagnon making moves, bringing in a pretty stud wide receiver in Brandon Marshall. What are your initial thoughts of the trade?
Great move. I love the move by our GM, Joe. Not afraid to spend the money whatsoever. And if they're getting Marcus Mariota, the kid is set right now. He has Eric Decker coming in with his second year with the Jets. Percy Harvin might be coming back. And right there, you have three great wide receivers. And that's what the Jets have been lacking the last couple of years. They really haven't had anybody. Yeah, we had Santonio Holmes a couple of years ago with Mark Sanchez. Didn't pan out too well because how he was mentally. But now you bring in a guy like Marshall, and I think this is a great move for the Jets.
And that's the interesting thing, right? Like, we still don't know what they traded to get him. Obviously, it can't become official until Tuesday. But I'm with you. My big concern for the Jets a year ago was, what did they have on offense for playmaking? I mean, they had nothing. Now you've got Eric Decker, you've got Brandon Marshall, you've got Chase Amaro, who showed some good things. You've still got a pretty solid running game. They're putting together a pretty formidable offense, and I mean, Decker right there and Marshall, solid, very solid. But the thing, Rob, is you still have no one to get them the ball. What is the next step? Now, we don't think that they gave up the 6th pick. I would be very surprised if they did in this trade. I don't think that's what they did. But Marcus Mariota obviously is the name that is coming to everyone's mind. What are you thinking right now about the quarterback?
I'm thinking Marcus Mariota is going to be coming to the Jets. The big thing, though, that I'm really looking at, Joe, you know, the rumors with Philadelphia about possibly Nick Foles coming to New York. And I think Nick Foles would actually be a better fit. If they were able to get Mariota and then trade him to the Eagles, I think he'd be a perfect fit for this Jets offense because Nick Foles is a pure passer. Yeah, Mariota is a great passer, but he runs a lot. Nick Foles falls into that category of a guy who could throw maybe 40 to 50 passes a game and would work perfectly with that Jets offense at this point.
I agree with you. I mean, I think the Eagles have Marcus Mariota written all over them. I mean, when we look at the Kiko Alonso, LaShawn McCoy trade, everything we've kind of seen from Chip Kelly this offseason indicates they're most likely trying to move up to take him. Now, the Jets, I mean, it's going to be difficult because they'd have to move in front of the Jets at 5, really, to take him. And Washington is in their division, and they're going to want a lot to get that pick. So it's interesting because the Eagles are going to have a lot of navigating to try to get there. We will see, though, if the Jets do get that number 6 pick and he is still there. If he's the quarterback of the future and the Eagles may want to swap with Foles, that would be interesting, but I would keep Marcus Mariota. If I'm the Jets, I just think I like Foles. I agree with you. I think he does a lot of good things, but I think you need that young guy to build around. I think you plug Marcus in. And coming into the league with Brandon Marshall, with Eric Decker, with Percy Harvin if he's there for long, you've got a pretty formidable offense. And that's the biggest struggle, I think, sometimes for a young quarterback is when they don't have a lot of talent around them. We saw, I mean, the thing that impresses me so much about Andrew Luck is what he can do without a ton of talent. But when you come into a situation with that talent there, it makes your life so much easier. I think for Marcus, it would be pretty solid right there.
And, Joe, we talk about this Jets offense. If we do land Mariota, you still have Chris Ivory, who came off a pretty great year. And you think of it, Mariota runs the ball, Ivory runs the ball. The Jets' offense could be a team that really flies down the field. This is a really dangerous offense. If Mariota does come to this team, very dangerous to watch out for because they could move the ball at a fast pace, and they're going to be good to watch this year. I'm very excited for them. One thing I do look at, though, with the Jets' offense, we need to start building the offensive line. Nick Mangold, yes, he's a great center. Ferguson's a great offensive lineman. They're getting older, and we need to start filling that void to build up the Jets' offensive line to protect Mariota. Because that's one of the biggest problems with the Jets over the last couple of years. We look at Sanchez's days. Sanchez was always getting attacked because he didn't have the linemen around him. And that's one thing they really need to start fixing up on.
I totally agree with you. And the offensive line for Marcus Mariota is going to be so important because we know with his style, that offensive line is going to be very important because his game is going to rely a lot on spacing out the defense, and you're going to really need that offensive line to really be firm and hold that together because it's going to make his job so much easier. And there are people, let me ask you about the Marcus Mariota in general, because it seems like a lot of people are torn. They either think his style is going to work in the NFL or it's not going to. John Gruden, of all people, has really been on the camp. I mean, he really believes that Marcus is the hardest working guy in this draft, and he just loves to and lives the game of football. He just thinks, give him the playbook, help him ease into it, the guy's going to be fine. As a Jets fan, we look at these moves now. It looks like it might become a reality. What do you think is going to take to make him succeed in the NFL?
Just continuing what they're doing right now, which is building players around him. Joe, we look at his team in Oregon. It's all Marcus Mariota back in his days in Oregon. Mariota carried everything for that team. You surround him with the right playmakers like the Jets are doing right now, building up that offense, and it's going to pan out great. That's what he needs. He needs weapons around him because he didn't even have a great wide receiving corps at Oregon.
He did not.
Look right now. He comes to the Jets, 3 top wide receivers, hands down right there, has a running back in Ivory, and that's all Mariota really needs because Mariota could do so much with his talent. He has the legs. He has the arm. And right there with the Jets, just keep building around. Now just focus on the line. That's the main focus the next couple days. Focus. How are we going to build that line for Mariota? Because once that line is built, that Jets offense would be unstoppable. That's all the Jets need.
Hard to disagree with that. Now, let's go back to Brandon Marshall for a minute. Now, there has been a fair share of criticism during his career, not really from his production on the field, which has always been outstanding, but it's more been the mental side of things for Brandon Marshall. We kind of understand he's got a little bit of trouble with his mental. I believe he's got a disorder or something of that nature. So he's always a guy who I think has been a little bit of, you got to be a little bit careful around him. Does that worry you a little bit, that side that we've seen of him every once in a while that comes out?
It does at this point because, with rookies, Joe, it usually comes off as a shaky start for the rookies. It usually takes 3 to 4 games till you're actually fit into your team's offense. But I don't have that feeling that he's going to go off. I think that Todd Bowles is going to do a good job with monitoring him. Be like, Mariota's a kid. You stay out of this. Because Bowles is assistant with for
Bruce Arians.
For Brandon Marshall, yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I think the thing I really like about the Jets is Bowles. Like, I think Bowles is a good guy to have there. We really haven't seen that much trouble from Brandon Marshall. I mean, recently with the Bears, there really hasn't been a lot of talk. And he's been a guy who could have been vocal because, look, things have been a disaster for the Bears with Cutler. And, I mean, I think this says a lot about Jay Cutler's future with the Bears as much as it says about the bright future for the New York Jets now that he's here. And it's very interesting, I mean, because Marshall is a guy who just is so good. I mean, you look at him as a guy who has the speed and can turn it up the field. His catch radius is terrific. His ability to just go up there and catch balls is incredible. I mean, one of the most gifted receivers in our game today, and it's a game-changing move for the New York Jets. It really is. The piece, though, that like we were just talking about, that it's all going to come down to, and it doesn't matter if you don't have one, is quarterback. And we will see. Let's say, though, that Marcus Mariota doesn't work out. Can you really go into next year with Geno Smith still as your quarterback? I would find that unacceptable to me. But what about you?
See, that's the thing, Joe. I keep getting mixed reports about it, that people are saying, oh, Geno might still be starting next year. I really don't trust him whatsoever. Last year he showed upside towards the end versus Miami where he almost had a perfect QB rating. But we look at it, he has to play that all 16 games, if not maybe 10 to 11 games out of the season. You can't come out where your passer rating's 15 or 10, throw 3 interceptions like with the Buffalo Bills in the first half, the first 3 possessions actually. I mean, Geno Smith, I still don't have that trust with him. I actually thought he would have been a perfect fit. The kid is so athletic, but he shows you upside, and then it's like he goes downhill. He has to be more consistent. I could even say that about his last season at West Virginia, where he came out so hot, throwing out so many touchdowns, and really just slowly declined. And I really don't see him panning out too well with the Jets. They keep saying, oh, we're going to sign up a backup. We're going to get maybe Jake Locker, Matt Moore, try to push him. You can't push him. It's at the point where it's time to move on from him because there's really nothing left in the tank out of this guy.
I totally agree. I mean, you cannot expect Jet fans to come and show up to games if you're going to roll out Geno Smith. I mean, now, and you've got to give them credit because they've made this is a great first start to the offseason. Bringing in a receiver with the talent of a Brandon Marshall, really showing the first glimpse of probably might be the most, would you say this is the most potent offense potentially we've seen from the Jets in the last 5 to 6 years?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
Joe, it's finally that time where I could say, as a Jets fan, I'm actually seeing a number one wideout on my team. You know, we really didn't have that growing up. Santonio Holmes, yes, he was a great wideout for the Jets over the last couple of years, but he wasn't that top wide receiver out there.
I totally agree with you. I mean, what it's all going to come down to now is at quarterback. I think you're set on offense. Maybe you got to do a little bit of work on the offensive line, but right now you've got your offensive core put together, and that's big for a team that's lacked that identity. They've got discipline now from Todd Bowles, who I think has shown you in Arizona how effective his teams are going to be, and especially in the secondary, how great his secondaries were. Now, obviously, he had the players to match it. Patrick Peterson is about as clutch and as shut down as you could get. But his schemes were also so sound. His guys were so disciplined. And that's a big problem the Jets have suffered from. So you've got to think that's going to get better. It's all coming down to quarterbacks, though. What's going to happen there? And it will definitely be a lot of fun to continue to see where that goes. Because right now it looks like Eagles, and it looks like Jets fighting for that spot. But we will see if Marcus Mariota will put a big smile on Big Shot Rob's face. I know as of right now, Brandon Marshall is putting a big smile on your face. Any final words to send us off?
I mean, my last thing with the New York Jets show, I'm going to talk about it. I cannot wait for our defense. I think we're going to see a lot of familiar faces coming back to New York. Antonio Cromartie, Bowles and him are talking right now. Darrelle Revis might be coming back. And I think this move right there, Joe, might have just made a couple guys' decisions to come to New York. Because you know what? New York is the team this year. Our general manager is not like Isaac. He's going to spend the money. He's going to make sure the product is good on the field. And that's what the New York Jets need. They need somebody who's a push on the field.
And that's really interesting, too, is those guys coming back. And let's be honest, you get Marcus Mariota, you've got a pretty interesting team there. You get some, I think, definitely Cromartie, you've got a very good chance of coming back because he talked about how much he enjoyed playing for Bulls. Revis is the interesting one. I mean, look, would he come back? I don't know. I think right now I'm leaning towards him going back to New England, but look, if they get a quarterback there, and Marcus is a guy who I think would perfectly fit there, because the only thing I would worry about him there was the New York media, because he is such a shy, quiet guy, and that might be a little bit of an adjustment for him. But still, I mean, I have zero concern about him putting in the work, zero concern about him being a leader. It would be. I mean, he exemplifies everything you could have possibly want out of a franchise quarterback. Very exciting times, though, for the New York Jets. Jersey Joe and Big Shot Rob, and we are signing off.